I wish I would have known how to do this when I was your age, 24, 25 years old. I would have been a better person, a better man because of it. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because you guys are facing the worst of times when it comes to the availability of porn. But at the same time, science is catching up with how you can overcome it.
Hello and welcome to the Finally Quit Porn podcast. I'm really excited to share this podcast with you all today. I am joined by Quinn Felix, another life coach who specializes in helping people overcome and quit pornography. So welcome on the show, Quinn. How are you doing today? And do you want to start off by sort of introducing yourself a little bit as well?
Sure, yeah. I'm doing well today. Thank you very much. I got into life coaching because of a porn addiction myself, which lasted many years, 55 years of it before I finally got a hold of it. And I made a promise to myself that if I could beat it, that I was going to help others overcome it also. So I got into life coaching, started my own life coaching business. The main help that I received in overcoming porn was through the Sarah Brewer podcast. And I joined her program, and she really helped me out. And that's where I really excelled in life coaching. And I also do work for her. I do her support group once a week on Zoom, and she also gives me one-on-one coaching to do with some of her clients. So that's where I'm at. Born and raised in Utah. Moved to California after I married my wife, and was a firefighter for the California Department of Forestry for a number of years. Then after retiring from that, I got into the medical field. And after retiring from that, I moved to Houston, Texas, where we live now. That's a brief summary of my story.
Amazing. And tell us a little bit about your struggle with pornography. So you managed to transform your life quite a lot. You've gone from someone who was addicted to porn to helping other people overcome and quit this, which is really amazing and very inspirational. So tell us about how that started for you, and also how did that change over those 55 years? Because in that time, we've obviously had high-speed internet pornography come along, and I'd be really interested to hear how that changed things for you as well.
Yeah. Well, I started out in porn, of course, at a young age, but back then it was magazines or erotica literature. So I got involved in that, and of course with magazines, it's pretty simple. You look at it, and then after looking at it 2 or 3 times, there's no novelty there anymore. So you have to wait for the next magazine to come out. So was it an issue? Yeah, it was, because I was always waiting for the next issue to come out. But was it daily? No, it wasn't. But as soon as the internet came out, high-speed internet, it turned into a daily problem. And it went from me, if you're familiar with Gary Wilson and Your Brain on Porn,
Yeah.
He talks about the chaser effect. And it quickly went into the chaser effect with the high-speed internet. And it went for me from a porn habit to a porn addiction to sex addiction, where I was traveling outside of the porn, making the fantasy world real, meeting up with people, talking online with people, and it culminated with my wife leaving me, losing my job over it, losing my family over it, when I hit rock bottom. And that was finally the wake-up call. I mean, I told myself 1,000 times, I'll quit it when I want to. I couldn't. And I didn't understand why. And that was the biggest issue, was how do you do it? You know, and Sarah Brewer refers to this with you're trying to repair the refrigerator with the manual from the microwave, and it just doesn't match up. It just doesn't work. You can't stop it if you don't know the correct way to do it. So I got on a Brain Buddy first, and that was good. The exercises were good and helpful, but at that time, Brain Buddy's changed since then. But at that time, there was no information to tell you what to do, how to do it, why you were stuck in it. It was just basically the exercises, and those were helpful. But I cold turkeyed it. I went after reading Gary's book. I knew I had to go at least 90 days to reboot. And I did that cold turkey. And then it was right around the 90-day mark that I was introduced to the Sarah Brewer program, and started listening to her podcast. And that's where I got the information to put the jigsaw puzzle together and figure out why I was doing it and how I can put it together so that I can step out of it. So the combination of the exercises with the knowledge that I gained from the Sarah Brewer program finally took me out and gave me the control that I needed.
So do you feel like through that program, you got to identify the root cause of this problem and then go and learn ways of coping with the feelings, the sensations that would come up because of that root cause?
Yeah. And it was extensive. I did have to go to a therapist because there was something that in my background, in my childhood, that I couldn't identify. And it was something as simple as I had an older brother, 2 years older than me, who was very popular in high school, and all-state athlete and playing football, just very popular. I was living in his shadow. And, I supported him, did everything that I was supposed to do as a younger brother. But that affected me. Here he's popular. I live with him, but yet I'm a nobody. So that is what propelled me to get into porn. But I didn't realize that until I was 55 years old. And it took a therapist to bring that out and say, you didn't feel worthy or have any worth in your childhood, and you lived with that this whole time without reconciling with it.
So interesting. And then I imagine what's happened is that part of you that didn't feel so worthy would come up in certain situations as an adult and would take you back into that coping mechanism that you would use when you were younger to deal with those feelings.
Yep. Yeah, I used porn as the escape. And I have a little story that I picked up somewhere. I can't remember where I got it from. Could have been Covenant Eyes. That talks about and I call it the porn god syndrome, is that you create this fantasy world where these girls and guys are at your beck and call, and you can you can tell them to do whatever you want, and they'll respond to you. You're the god. They are your little fantasy world. So I created this little fantasy world to escape from reality. And it's very, very empowering to figure that out finally and step out of it and say, no, I can create my own real world. I don't have to rely on a fantasy to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's so interesting that you shared that story about your brother as well, because I spoke about this on one of my YouTube videos, I think. But for me, growing up, I had an older sister, and she would pretty much bully me at times. So a few examples. I remember she would go to the toilet, right? She would go to the bathroom, and I was only like 4 or 5 years old. And she would make up that she'd gone to this fantasy, magical, amazing, wonderful land. And so she'd come out of the bathroom and she'd tell me all about this land. And I was really enticed, really excited. I wanted to go with her to this adventurous land, mythical place. And it turned out, as I got older, she kept on saying, when you're like 7 or when you're 8, you can come with me. I don't know what age I realized, but one day it'll kind of fell into place. And I figured out, oh, there is no magical land. And actually the whooshing sound of her transportation device was just the toilet flushing, right? So I felt like a total idiot back then, like so stupid. And that event, and then my mum getting cancer when I was 12 years old, and the powerlessness associated with that, and all these other sort of childhood experiences all led to me feeling a lot of powerlessness and lacking that worthiness. And yeah, it's been so hard to overcome this problem with porn, because those feelings would come up in certain situations and my nervous system would go into that sympathetic state where it's fight, flight, freeze response. And in that state, I just wouldn't know how to deal with those sensations. And so I would turn to sexual content and usually just the search for that sexual content and get my brain just absolutely flooded with dopamine. So what I'd love to ask you is, what do you do when you're in that situation, when you have a dysregulated sort of emotional state?
Well, there's a number of things. The main thing that I do is to change my environment. And you know, I'm kind of at a disadvantage because I don't have the young mind anymore. So I don't know if it's different for everybody or it can be the same for everybody. But even now, and that's one thing I try to teach people is you're always going to have these urges the rest of your life. They're never going to go away. They're built into us. But I have the choice now to make the decision not to make it a fantasy. And I can strengthen that. There's a number of tools that I've been taught, through Sarah's program and on my own figuring things out. But my main thing right now is just to escape where I'm at, change my environment so that I can think clearly. If I'm stuck behind the computer all day, coaching or doing research or whatever it is I'm doing, as soon as my mind starts getting tired, I'm looking for an escape. So I need to take control of that escape. Am I going to go to porn like I used to? Or am I going to be in control and take care of it myself by getting out, going for a walk, getting away from anything to do with porn? You got to realize as life coaches, we're talking about porn quite a bit during the day. And the brain gets fatigued from it. So I need to read another book, something that has nothing to do with porn. I need to, go watch TV for a few minutes, take a nap for a few minutes, whatever it is. But the whole idea is that you need to be in control and make the choice of how you're going to act out.
And do you have any tools to help you strengthen your ability to make that decision and become more aware that you're even going to make that decision? Because I think sometimes in the past I would sort of go too far down that route that I didn't feel I could have control of myself any longer. It kind of felt like the urge had control over me. But since meditating, for example, I feel a lot more like I'm in control of the urge. Like I'm aware of the two paths I've got in advance of going down the path in the first place, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, exactly. And this is one of the tools that Sarah teaches. Really the main tool that she teaches is process the urge. I've had to take it a step further, but let me step back. Processing the urge is nothing more than feeling the urge, recognizing that it's there. Don't push it away, but become friendly with it. Treat it as a normal urge that you get. I mean, how many urges do we get in a day? I'm not talking about porn urges, but just normal everyday urges. What are you going to have for lunch today? What are you going to have for dinner today? Oh, the urge is there. Maybe I want to go to have pizza. Well, no, pizza's not a good idea. I'm trying to get away. I'm trying to lose weight. So so I just processed an urge. I had an urge to eat pizza, and I brought it back to me and said, no, it's really not a good idea. Maybe I should look at it this way. So I was in control of it. From the point that I thought about it, I was in control of it. When I wasn't in control of my porn urges, it was just an automatic. Go look at porn. Now take care of it. So I've probably gone off track here, answering your question a little bit, but you process the urge, and it's nothing more than sitting with it, taking a deep breath, talking to it, becoming familiar with it, describing it. Where is it in my body? I feel it in my stomach. It's a fluttery feeling. If you could assign a color to, what color is it? Right now, it's probably a red, purplish color. Is it moving? Yeah, it's going from my stomach up into my chest. Now I've got that fluttery feeling in my chest. So you just, and name it. I name all my porn urges Donald, because I had a bully in elementary school by the name of Donald, and I just hated the kid. So now when Donald shows up, I say, hey, Donald, I'm glad you're here. It's been a long time. We got nothing to talk about. You can leave. So it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice to get to the point where you can recognize it. Now, when I said I had to take it a step further, I found out for me, if the urge got to that point, it was very hard for me to process it. The chemicals, the dopamine is already dumped. Okay, so I learned that a thought always precedes the urge. And I learned that if I could observe the thought, it would never get to be an urge. So I would process the thought. For example, my wife, this was years ago, but I use it as this example. My wife, every Wednesday evening, had a church meeting that she would go to. So I would wake up Wednesday morning, and the first thing that I thought of was, hey, guess what tonight is? Wednesday night, I'm alone. So that was the thought. And as I started processing the thought 12 hours before the urge actually kicked in, I could beat it.
Yeah. I think the earlier you become aware of the habit loop, the better chance you have of overcoming this problem. So something that I've realized recently within myself is that this is going to sound, I don't know how it will sound actually. It probably won't sound that strange. I'm sure there's people listening who experience similar things. But despite being 24 years old, when I leave my parents sometimes, when I go back to my flat, and I'm living alone, I've lived alone since I was 18. When I go back to my flat after seeing my parents, sometimes I can feel quite disconnected, lonely, and I kind of have this come down. And it might relate to feelings that I had when I was really young, and I had that massive fear that my mum was going to death, that my mum was going to die. I had that impending sense of doom just over me. And so being disconnected again from my parents as an adult, sometimes what I've learned is that can lead to me having these urges. And so what I started to do on the train home from seeing my parents, I've started to sort of plan a little bit more proactively. Okay, what am I doing when I get into my flat and I've got 2 hours before bed? Well, I'm going to cook a meal. Maybe I'll do a bit of meditation. I'm going to plan out my day for tomorrow with my 6 goals, as I always do. And then I'm going to get some rest and go to sleep. Whereas a year ago or 2 years ago, I would have just gone back to my flat. I'm feeling horrible, a lot of anxiety. These feelings come up that I experienced when I was a lot younger. I'm back as a 12-year-old again, and I just automatically, and yeah, that's the word that you just said, automatically go and seek out some sexual content, and that would help me escape. So I think you're right. I think being really proactive in managing the thoughts before they get to that urge level is really good advice. Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. It's a mindset. It's a different mindset that you have to create. And it takes work. It takes practice. And from my experience on Brain Buddy and working with clients and stuff, we are so impatient. And I understand that. You get caught and I'm going to quit. And it doesn't happen that way. And it takes a process, and you need a program to work with. Guidelines, whatever you want to come up with, but you need to be in charge of that program. Me as a life coach, you as a life coach, we can help guide them and create that program. And it's so important to use something to help guide you along. We talk about motivation and commitment a lot. Yeah, you got caught. Your girlfriend, your wife caught you. So you're motivated right then to stop. But there's no commitment there, because a commitment is a plan. It's goals that you can create that are attainable, and they're goals that are short-term and long-term. And if you don't come up with a commitment plan, it's like a New Year's resolution. You do it for a week and nothing there anymore. It's interesting. I find it interesting that, I use this as an example, a weightlifter. You want to start lifting weights, get in shape, build up that body. And almost by automatically you come up with, most guys do anyway, a plan to do that. It's almost like you were structured. Well, I need to start out doing a bench press of say 100 pounds. I'm going to work up in a week's time to 125 pounds. Well, that's how you attain your success, because you made a plan to do it. And I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week or 4 days a week. I'm going to run a mile every day. You come up with this plan almost intuitively. You don't do that for porn. And it's because it's unknown territory. What is the plan that you want to come up with? What is it that you can do to attain success? Yeah. And that's where you need the help.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's so true. And I think for me as well, another big problem that I used to have is I'd focus pretty much entirely on the result. And the result would be either I'm on a no-fap streak, because I'd keep a streak and that would mean a lot to me, or I'm not on a no-fap streak. I'm on either like day 0 or I'm on day 50 or whatever. And I'd have that all or nothing thinking, which Sarah also talks about. Yeah. And so my own self-worth, my identity got so caught up in that streak that I just was filled up with layers and layers of shame. Yeah. And it just made it so much worse. And so, what you want to do is build a process, a system, something that you can actually stick to. And then you rely on the process, not the results, to measure your actual success. That's how you do it.
Yep. And the other thing that people fall into, the trap, is that streak. That counting days is the worst way of obtaining a success, especially on Brain Buddy. And I'll pick Brain Buddy apart because it has its flaws, but that stupid life tree. I mean, you're honest and you report, hey, I had a slip up, and that stupid life tree dies. I mean, it's the equivalency is you're committing mental suicide every time you slip up, and slip ups are going to happen. That's life, And I don't know how we get into that attitude about it. Do we do that if we're weight training, and we don't feel good for one day, so we don't go to the gym and lift weights? Oh, I have to start all over at day 1 now. Yeah. No, come on. It just doesn't work that way. You made progress. You went up. You've been going up a hill. Hey, you had a slip up. Okay, you have a flat line for a second. You're still going. You don't go back to zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just, if guys would get it in their head that slip-ups are going to happen, and that's all right. I'm going to learn from it. And I'll tell you, once you get that into their heads as clients, once you get it into their heads, it's not an issue anymore. What did we learn from it? What is it? I just had a client that I was talking to this morning that had gone, almost 3 months without slipping up. And he got stuck in a situation in New York where he thought he was going to be with a friend, and the friend decided he bailed on him and left him in an apartment by himself for 3 days. And he was a prisoner, had nowhere to go, nothing to do. And he slipped up because of that. I understand that. I get that. And he did too. And he said, it was new, something I'd never faced before. And I can understand why I slipped up. But I know that that's not going to be my life. I can be in control of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so refreshing to hear that, because I think most content online on like YouTube focuses just purely on those results, the no fat streak and all of that stuff. And I can say right now, very honestly, I'm only on maybe day 9 of the streak. I don't actually care about the streak. I do have a streak just because I'm on Brain Buddy at the moment, so I see it there. I'm on day 9, but my mind, my health, my habits, my lifestyle, my sort of thought process around this problem, like everything is the best it's ever been. And yet I'm only on day 9. And in the past, I've been on over 150 days. I've been on loads of 90 plus day streaks. But my mindset back then on these really, really long streaks was not anywhere near as good as my mindset towards this problem. Now, it's just that things come up, life happens, and you might have a setback, and then you learn from that, and you improve your process, you improve your system, or you just stick to what you know works for you. And the reason I had that slip up less than 2 weeks ago is simply because I didn't stick to a process, I didn't stick to a system. And it means absolutely nothing about who I am as an individual. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just I didn't stick to my system for like 4 or 5 days, and things got on top of me, and then I had a slip up, and that's okay.
Yeah, and it's easy to do, isn't it? And that's the beauty of having a slip up. That gives you a chance to self-reflect, look back at what happened. Why did it happen? Okay, now I know better. I'm going to try to stick with my program, my routine a little bit better. And that's another thing that I really try to encourage people. Find a routine. And it has to start first thing in the morning. Get out of bed, drink a glass of water, get rehydrated, do your bathroom duties, make your bed, and start your day.
Yeah.
And the same type of routine throughout the day so that you can keep track of what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Definitely. And when you get out of that routine, you are a lot more likely to have a slip up because you don't have a structured plan for what you're going to do with your time. And so you're kind of letting externalities control you instead of being in control of your own life. So I'm conscious of time, and I really want to give you the opportunity to say where people can find you and so on. So if anyone wants to like reach out to you or have coaching with you, where can people find you, Quinn?
QuinnFelix.com is my website. Again, I'm not Sarah Brewer. I do a coaching call with her a support group with her every week. You can just reach out to me. I can give you you can contact me on WhatsApp if you're over across the pond, as you say. 530-828-6000 is my phone number. You can reach out to me. I'm always available to help somebody if they need help. I just wanted to say real quick, I really appreciate your honesty in telling people this last 2 weeks or week, however long it's been, that you had a slip up. That's hard for coaches to do. And I'll be honest too, I still have slip ups. I'm not a perfect 1,000%er. It's going to happen, and it's always when I lose control of my emotional state. If something happens out of my routine, and if I don't check it, I'm going to slip up. But that's all right, because I know I can learn from it.
Yeah.
And change it so that I can become stronger. I wish I would have known how to do this when I was your age, 24, 25 years old. I would have been a better person, a better man because of it. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because you guys are facing the worst of times when it comes to the availability of porn. But at the same time, science is catching up with how you can overcome it. And the big takeaway from this is, hey, if you get married and have kids, if that's your plan, now you know how to approach your kids and educate them correctly. How much different would it have better been? And I think it was on Brain Buddy today, somebody was doing a poll of, did your dad ever talk to you about porn? And 100% no. Most, they didn't know what was going on. They knew that it was there, but they didn't know how to, So for me, from a religious background, it was shame. I'd go talk to my religious leader. Oh, obviously you're not praying enough. Obviously you're not reading the scriptures enough. Now that only made it worse, because I would pray more and I would read scriptures more, but I still looked at porn. So something's really wrong with me. So that shame is huge. Anyway, I've taken up all your time. I could talk to you for hours. So
I could honestly talk to you for hours as well. So maybe we do another podcast another day. I would definitely.
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Again. Yeah, brilliant. All right. Go and check Quinn out at quinnfelix.com. Thank you so much for coming on. I've really, really enjoyed chatting with you. This has been
same here.
It's been amazing. So yeah, thanks. And I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people out there. So really do appreciate it. And if anyone wants to find me as well, go to www.finallyquitporn.com and you can reach out to me there. Thanks a lot for listening, and I'll see you in the next podcast episode.